welcome to Talks with Interesting People. Here today with me is Ellie Burke from ellieburke.life. A health coach and, a life coach, life coach and meditation and mindfulness teacher. So we're giggling right now because we just spent a solid half hour having a great conversation.
Amazing conversation.
It was really good. You missed out that I did not record. So we're recording now and gonna rehash some of it.
Yeah.
So I think as a practice of mindfulness and meditation, I don't know, let's just name what we're feeling in response to
that
not recording for a half hour. We can start with that and then we'll go back into some of the same topics.
I think it's hilarious.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I mean, it's so here's what's interesting to me is we had a great conversation, so much connection, so much understanding, so many points of aha moments. And that was what it was.
Yeah.
And it will be shared in other ways, either through our own work with people or through our own lived experience. And then we're going to continue to answer some questions.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting thing when we were talking about some of the questions prior, and we're talking about what is a meaningful life? What is the purpose? Where do we find that?
Yeah.
We can get really attached to the outcome of things. And then we miss the experience of things. And so we just had the experience.
It's totally in the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was great. And hopefully we'll share more with you guys.
So we were actually having a conversation about the difference between purpose and goal orientation. And I'll use this example because right now I'm feeling that goal orientation. I want to capture these concepts to share with people.
Yeah.
And so my concept now is okay, what were the topics? I'm going to bang, bang, bang. Let's get Ellie to say that stuff again.
Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge that I'm feeling that sort of goal orientation, a little less kind of just being with the process.
And I think instead of trying to go back and recreate what we did, I think we start with a new question.
Yeah.
And then whatever we explore while we're being recorded is what was needed.
I appreciate that.
To be
honest. I should always do podcasts with meditation teachers. Yeah. And I might just have to ask you to do this again.
That's fine.
Okay. Let's start with a different question. I'll just go with one of the ideas you explore is the difference between who we are and who the world told us to be. How can someone tell the difference between these two?
Sometimes we know it. I feel sometimes there's some really obvious things that we kind of know. It's I did this for my career because my parents were that's what you're going to do. There's some really clearly obvious things, or I partnered with this person because that was the type of person that the world around me told me was the right person to partner with or whatever. So there's some things that we're pretty aware of actually. But some of the other things which we're less aware of does take practice in discovering. One of the things that we were talking about a moment ago is this idea of peeling the onion. And we were laughing about the fact that this onion is actually the size of this building, if not larger, because it is a process. And actually, when you can begin to identify what you do know, the things that you've chosen because other people have kind of suggested that. And actually, let me even back up there, because one of the things that I used to talk with people, when I would do workshops, coaching workshops, would be when you think about making a decision and you're pausing for a moment to notice who in me is making this decision, that you can probably count on one hand, maybe two, who is actually making that decision. Is it coming from me, or is it coming from parents? Is it coming from the mean kids at school? Is it coming from the doctor that was never kind? Whatever, there could be these very specific memories we have of and I remember this one workshop, I don't know why this is coming to mind, where a woman was talking about every time she goes to get dressed, she looks in her closet, and the people that are deciding what she should wear are the bullies from elementary school.
Totally.
And she said, as soon as I asked that question, she was bam. And then she started crying.
Yeah.
Because she was what in the world? That's not what I want to wear. That's not who I am. And why do they still get to be in control of that?
Yeah.
So it's not even, we like to go, I always say, we talk about the motherhood, which yes, is a legitimate thing, but I don't think it's fair that we put it all on the mom.
Oh,
it's classic.
All kinds of people.
It's classic, right? But it's all kinds of people, including people who you might have a one-off interaction with, that these little dings that we experience in life. So back to that question of, was it, how do you decide, figure out who
we are in the world and who the world told us to be? how can someone tell the difference between those two? I think,
Yeah.
and that's not to try and get back to some of the points you're
Yeah,
making,
yeah.
but yeah, so like, I feel like it takes a lot of practice and development of self-awareness to get to the point where you can identify that because most of us are coming from the ego mind, the unconscious, the reactive place.
Yes.
And so, yeah, what are the tools you might work on to help develop the ability to recognize that you
Yeah.
aren't coming from yourself, your true self?
So I will say two things. On one hand, yes, it can take a long time. In my perspective, it's going to take my whole life actually to continue to observe these things. That can feel really daunting and like, well, what's the point of even trying?
Or I mean, even just
So,
developing the like people
It's a
who
development, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so what I want to say about that is that anytime you begin to get clear on it, you're in the process of that self-discovery,
Yeah.
right? So I would say, going back again to one of the things we were talking about, like if you've decided there's something you want to accomplish, you set a goal for yourself. It doesn't matter where that came from. I don't care if it came from the conditioned self or not, whatever, the authentic self. But you've decided to set a goal. And I love this with when I work with one-on-one clients, like, good, let's set the goal. It's less about, I don't care about the goal. I do, but I care less about the goal. What I care more about is if someone comes back to me and says, I didn't do it, or I didn't take this step, or I took this step and then this happened, or I did this and then this happened, or I did this and then I had this thought about it, right? And then I did this instead. Because in that like confusion or that chaos or that lack of action or whatever is the place that we can begin to explore and pull apart, like, who in me chose this? Why am I not following through? Is it something I want to follow through on? If the answer is yes, what's getting in my way? Those are all aspects of that structured conditioned self.
Yeah.
And so people can have that own curiosity, but I do think that it does require someone else, whether that's therapy or coaching or even like an honest friend who can like point things back to you, who can say, you really wanted to do that thing. Is it because you don't actually want to do it? Maybe you didn't want that goal. Or is it something else that's getting involved there? But I do think, especially at the beginning, until we develop this deeper sense of self-awareness, this growing understanding of that awareness, it does take someone to ask those questions before we can ask them of ourselves, if that makes sense.
One of the things we're parsing out before also is, again, I'm always trying to speak to people who maybe don't have so much of a concept of this sort of area. A lot of people will then use the mind, or we would probably call it the ego mind, to try and think about that.
Yeah.
And I want to differentiate between that and developing that sort of the observer, the unconscious witness.
The conscious witness.
Yeah, the conscious witness, yeah.
So I think that honestly, like, it's not like a switch. And what I mean by that is we have to witness our analysis. We have to witness the part that is going into the habit of processing it in this way, or self-blame, or blaming something else. We have to actually see all those mechanisms. And so as we're increasing our awareness of that, it's almost like this tapering out of one aspect into another, right? Like, because as I often say with my meditation and coaching groups, our mind, our brain can catch up to what awareness understands. And I think it's an ongoing process of that, actually, that when we become aware of like, oh, I'm trying to think of like another habit we could talk about, like someone wanting to make a change. Tell me something that someone maybe you've worked with would like.
Well, in our world, it's often around, eating or exercising, or following through with certain protocols.
Let's do the following through with certain protocols.
Yeah.
Like, let's say it's something like supplements, taking certain supplements, for example, at certain times of the day.
Yep.
So there's this clear path. There's actually, what's interesting, an actual connection to very specific body, medical related, probably mental health related. There could be all kinds of things involved in that, but there's like a clear, like, this is the thing you need, and here's the way to do it. Mm-hmm. So people have this information, and then they come back and they say, I didn't do it, or I did it for 3 days. And it's probably different for Some people do it for 3 days and then they stop. Some people don't do it at all. Some people, I don't know, do it in a different order, or they do it out of, I'm just trying to imagine what it might be. But when, and I forget now, I'm forgetting the question. We were backing up to.
Trying to differentiate between using the mind to figure out versus
Yes.
developing consciousness,
Right.
the observer.
So in a moment like that, a person can go, I have the plan. Here's the supplements. Here are the times of days I'm supposed to take them. I get up and I go to take the first supplement, and instead I make my coffee. And then I go from there, and instead I do this. Like there's like an avoidance of it. If I can notice, like, oh, that's interesting. Again, curiosity is really important, not judgment. But I knew I was supposed to do that, then why didn't I? And it could just be as simple as like, oh, I got sidetracked. So then we would talk about attention, like, well, where's your attention going and why? Because even our attention is unconscious, where we're putting it, how it's being drawn. So then it would be the curiosity of like, what's getting in the way of doing the thing? And just having that curiosity. And so then your mind comes in like, I wonder why. I could think about that a little bit, but that thinking isn't the awareness in the moment to follow through on the thing. It's the analysis of it. So it's not harmful to analyze it, but it can keep you out of actually dropping back into the moment and just following through on the action, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, this is actually a perfect example, and I didn't quite realize, but I use this a lot, because we also have to do a lot of health coaching here. So people might come in and they'll be upset, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't do the protocol or whatever. And I'm like, well, then we got to go to the root cause of the root cause. Like this protocol might be trying to treat your systems and treat root causes, but we got to get to the root cause of why you didn't want to take it. And so we'll explore that a lot, like, you know, as in a health coaching format. So then how can people begin, instead of using their brain to analyze it, how can they create that that drop in? And I know a lot of people even talk about, well, I was busy and I was trying to figure out this problem or what to do about the situation, but then I went away and I had some free time and it came to me. Now I know how to handle that. Like once I like simmered with it or went and did something else, or so, you know, that might be an experience people have, but like, so how do you get people to start to, instead of using the brain to analyze, to kind of call it drop in? And
yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because I think a lot of people can experience that, like I was wrestling with the problem and then I went for a walk and then I got clear, or I took a break. What I think shifts, this is all just my ideas, but what I think shifts in those moments are, we actually stop efforting in the brain. We actually step out and then we're like present. Usually it involves like, oh, I took a walk in nature, or the sensory experience awakened me. Like I all of a sudden became present in the experience, and then there was the clarity. And so then I associate nature with that, which again happens more easily there.
yeah,
What I work often with people is like, what's happening is your attention is here now in the experience. When we can understand it is a practice of attention in experience, attention in the body, attention in the sensory experience that brings us into the full moment, presence of the moment, then it doesn't matter where we are. Then we can be in our kitchen with the supplements sitting right in front of me. And I can go, I'm making it show, like, am I here now? Am I actually here? And most of the time we're not, because we're running around and we've got this to do or this to do and blah, blah. But we can, in a moment, bring our attention into the direct experience, which I know sounds so overly simple, but like, what are your hands touching? Are you even hearing the sounds that are present in your environment? Notice what your breath is doing. You don't have to change your breath, just notice it. Can you awaken the part of you that can notice those experiences? And from that place, then make the next choice. Because then you're making a conscious choice versus an unconscious one.
I think it's a perfect example, because when you start practicing mindfulness in your daily life, it becomes a path to awakening to your unconscious belief structures and ego identity. Because it is shocking how reactive and how many backup thoughts you're having around taking a supplement.
Yeah.
You didn't realize that you're ticked at your mom for this, and then that thing happened that when you were 6, and then in school over just something as simple as, you know, that supplement that you,
and now it's choosing for you.
Yep.
Right. And that's, you know, I think we talked a little bit about this saying that it's a young saying, which is, until we make the unconscious conscious, it directs your life, and we call it fate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's like, I don't know why I can't take the supplement.
Yeah.
I want to. Some part of me wishes this for my well-being and my health. and I can't do it. And then there's self-loathing and self-doubt and whatever, self-judgment. And so it gets complicated, and that unfortunately reinforces a lot of that, right? It reinforces itself.
Yeah, but it does become quite remarkable how when you're using mindfulness, how incredibly opening it is to just simple things. You had no idea how complex your activity was too. Like you can anything can be a learning opportunity.
Totally.
Yeah.
We make it so complicated.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be big issues. It can be little tiny stuff.
Totally.
And then the practice that I was taught in also, that doesn't necessarily mean you take the supplement, because you just have to be with your reactivity and process it until you're at a place where you can make a choice from a reasonable place and not from the 16 voices that you didn't know were in your head. So yeah,
that's right.
Speaking of purpose versus goal, the goal, you might not end up doing the goal of taking your supplement if you are taking the time to process all the reactivity around it.
And then it's just about what's the aim of it, right? What is
and then sometimes you still have to pay your taxes.
Right.
Take your pills.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, I still want to rehash like defining ego identity versus, but okay.
Well, we can.
Okay.
We can do whatever we want.
I mean, I do find it really helpful as we're talking this, because I mean, one of my goals out of this, besides just the fact that I love talking with you and in general, is giving people some nuggets. So we know we talked about most of us are coming from sort of our unconscious ego identity, and by
all of us.
Yeah, excuse me, you're right. All of us.
So for the enlightened,
no matter where we are, whoever they are, and even whoever they are would say that,
they're still doing the work.
And then I mean, like you talked about also that we need a functional ego identity to function in the world. If you could tell us more about that aspect of being a human, and then we can delve into maybe some of the techniques to start to awaken from that.
So one of the things that we were discussing was kind of like, what is this ego identity, ego mind, the egoic self? You hear different terms for that. And it's something that is human. It's a human experience. I don't think that animals necessarily that we're aware of, they have consciousness, but I don't think they have ego in this way. But the individuation, maybe they have sort of an individuation going on, but this individuation of self. And so when you're born, babies don't necessarily know, they're even disconnected from the mother at first. And then there's this process of learning that, and it's painful actually. But then it becomes, then kids start to grow, and then it's always a painful process, actually, the individuation, which is interesting. There's like the terrible twos or the trying threes, where there's a pushing away, where the child pushes away and the parent kind of pulls back. But that individuation is the development of a healthy ego identity, which is I exist. I am this freestanding entity. I can make choices. I can do things for myself. Like I can feed myself. I can tie my shoe. I can move into the world and make choices. And that continues to occur. And again, it's actually important and healthy to have that healthy sense of self. At a certain point, and this is what we were starting to talk about as well, which is like at some point, when do we begin to question that? And I think that comes down to when we begin to explore our own suffering. And my teachers always taught that there is inevitable suffering to being human, right? There's unavoidable suffering in being human in these bodies. We're going to suffer.
Expand about that a little bit.
I will.
Okay.
So there's unavoidable suffering, and then there's avoidable suffering. Our unavoidable suffering is our existence in these human forms, that we will have pain and we will experience heartbreak, right? Unavoidable. We can't not experience those things. We can try to avoid them as much as possible, or take care of ourselves and take care of things in our environments, but those are things we can't avoid in being human. The avoidable suffering, that's where the question lies. Like, am I suffering because this experience is inherently one of suffering? Or is it because something in my ego identity is resisting it? Something in my ego identity wants it to be different. And so that's when this exploration begins to occur of like, why do I think this way? Why do I believe this? Why do I feel this is the only way it has to be? And then we get to things like I'm trying to control everything or whatever. There's a whole bunch of different directions you can go in there. But that question of suffering, I think, in my experience, people who have, and this isn't necessarily 100% true because a lot of people suffer. Some go into a path of deconstructing the ego and self-discovery, and other people lock in and get more crystallized and more hardened around that. So I don't know what it is about a particular individual that maybe it's access to teachings, probably. That would probably be a big piece of it, like access to this possibility that something else exists, whether that's you learn in school about different philosophies, or you actually get to try meditation or yoga or things like that. I think maybe that's the way where people can start to like crack open themselves versus like lock in even more.
Yeah, I feel like I also, because I used to, suffering is a major driver of being on a therapeutic path or a path of awakening. But also, I mean, I just know people who just seem to have been drawn to it. They didn't have to suffer that much.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah.
And I also think that, there's a sort of this saying or this, I don't know, saying, but like, I've heard this both in like yoga teachings as well as within meditation, that people who are drawn to it have like they've tasted it before.
Yeah.
That there's like something in it that already resonates with their soul.
Yeah.
And I think that's also kind of true too.
Some people are artists, some people are engineers, and some people just kind of knew that and were looking for it.
Yeah, a lot of people do describe the feeling of like returning to something that feels quite familiar, even though not because they've lived away from it for so long.
Yeah.
But it's like a returning, or you'll hear the phrase self-remembering.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh, that.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you get people like this, but like what is something someone could do in today to begin to create that witness, the observer, to get just a nanosecond to be able to disidentify from their initial ego mind thoughts or reactivity. Oh, we talked about the raisin meditation.
Well, we did. Yes.
That's a good one.
Yes.
But you get another example then.
Well, I'm trying to think of, I mean, so in something like the raisin meditation, I don't think you initially, let me back up. What I think tends to be the initial experience, which then invites people into a willingness to do the harder work of it, is that people have an experience of aliveness and of connectivity that they aren't familiar with. I saw this happen all the time in yoga, right? Like people will be like, coming out of Shavasana, like, I've never felt my hands like this before. I'm like, nothing happened. It's not actually that there's more blood flow. Maybe a little bit more energy moving, but you're just sensitized.
Yeah.
You've just sensitized yourself by being present in your body because your attention's present. Or the raisin meditation, which we described, where you put a raisin in your hand, hold it for a minute, just look at it, just observe it. Notice when you're analyzing, come back to just noticing, put it in your mouth for a minute, don't chew it, feel the texture, and then eventually you chew it. And it's like you've never tasted a raisin before. It's like the most incredible, sweet thing.
And you can do that with everything in life.
You can do it with everything. But what that teaches is it is important to slow down. But the reason we have to slow down is to understand that we have our attention and that we have agency of our attention. And then we don't have to slow down, actually. We can go at whatever pace we're going at and stay present.
I still feel it's almost like exercise though. Like if you don't practice the
slowing down
and actually do the exercise of mindfulness and meditation, which are two different things, which we could talk about. It will get rusty.
I think that's true. I think it'll get rusty. And I think even prior to getting rusty, I think that we do need to slow down to understand what it means to be present in an experience. Yeah. And yes, those things are supported by continued practice for sure. I mean, that's really important. But I think that just this idea, because again, when we think about integrating something in our lives, we're like, I don't have time for that. Which I get. I mean, first question that, but two, like, yeah, so what is it like if you are driving your kid to school and you actually are at a stoplight and you actually feel the steering wheel under your hands and hear the sounds around you?
Stoplight meditation.
Yeah, but it's like you're not slowing down, you're just getting present.
Yeah.
And sometimes getting present feels like slowing down.
It does. That's what I always use the example of like Luke Skywalker in a lot of superhero movies. Mm-hmm. in a lot of the superhero movies, there's a split second where they spend 10 years meditating and being mindful in order to learn to be present so that they can deal with the level of stress, so that they can deal with the speed of fighting super hard.
Yeah.
But then that's like a 2-minute montage, and then the rest of the time they're killing everybody.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I'm not even a Star Wars person
But
at
all the training that goes into that.
Yeah, but like I always use the example is before he went off with, what is it, Obi-Wan and Yoda, and learned to be present and mindful, he got his hand cut off. He was getting his butt kicked by the Empire.
Yeah.
And only once he was able to be present could he then deal with the stress.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and it's like that the classic moving from a state of reactivity to a state of responsiveness.
Oh, let's go into that a little.
So the ego identity is when we exist in it, which all of us do most of the time. Again, is built off of belief and how I think it's who I think I am and how I believe the world to be. It's both, right? And so that shell or that armor that we live in is what is reacting to the conditions. It's boom, boom. There's no space. It's just this occurs. This is my reaction to it.
And we'll point out that who I think I am and how I think I'm supposed to be in the world are often internalized beliefs that aren't necessarily our true self.
Yeah, and again, I don't know any human being that could grow into adulthood without that.
Oh, for sure. There's no judgment. Yeah.
No. Yeah. It's just the way it works.
Yeah.
It's just how it works.
How humans are.
It's how humans are.
Yeah.
And also it's not just about what I believe about myself, it's what I believe about the world.
Yeah.
And those two, it's both of those things, and they're related.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the push and pull of trying to fit in the world that I think exists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. My perception of it. But so then when we can pause and do the hard ongoing work of noticing what's arising, noticing the desire to do that, to feel the impulse to react. If I can notice that, then I have choice, right? In the pause, in that moment where there's this possibility that I could respond to this in a different way. Right. And so then I'm responding.
Like superheroes, like
I know,
if you can see, like in the bullet slows down.
Yeah.
And then you could decide how you want to be with it. Like if you're able to practice the mindfulness and the awareness, you can see the reactivity, you can see the bullet, and then you can be like,
right,
where'd this come from?
Yeah.
Is this serving me?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to use too many movie analogy.
Yeah. But they're pointing, I mean, I think there's a saying, I think this is on the ashram in Yogaville. I've never been, but Swami Satchidananda says truth is one, paths are many. And I really believe that. I think that there's so many philosophies, religions, spiritual traditions, pop culture, like they're artists, and all of that's written by artists. Like there's a pointing to an understanding.
Yeah, it's kind of like the roots are coming up everywhere in their different places. Yeah. Then it gets filtered through the ego mind.
That's
and the
right.
Culture and the
then it's like boop, we've separated it entirely from its original state.
Yeah. There's a reflection there, but and so you're saying the difference between reactivity and responsiveness.
Yeah. Oh, so just that then we can be in response to things. That's where conscious choice lies.
Yeah.
We can choose how to be in relationship to something. And so, again, like I'm also really clear with people that meditation in no way is going to allow us to control the conditions of our life.
And so, I mean, not to interrupt, but like I've seen in communities and people, you create a spiritual superego. You create, I don't feel my feelings because I am at peace with them and I'm not reactive.
That's called spiritual bypassing.
There you go.
That to me is a result of a misunderstanding of a mindfulness practice.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm not my thought. And it's like, well, actually, some part of you was and has that.
Yeah.
Like, this is not about pretending like this human did not go through experiences that conditioned it.
Yeah.
This practice, at least that I teach and that I understand, is about that I have access to a conscious self that can have compassion for that human that is having a really difficult experience in this moment and can make another choice. Can make a choice that's not motivated from that same place.
We might not know what that choice is. You kind of have to
That's right.
figure out who you really are and what you really are feeling in the moment.
Yes. which again is an ongoing practice. And I love this. You said something earlier about like, you can do it in small ways. Like I encourage people all the time, like, don't go trying to be aware of your deepest, most painful conditioning. Instead, be curious about how you're relating to the people around you at the grocery store.
Yeah,
like you don't even have to interact with them. Just notice your perception.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Notice your judgment.
The amount of chatter going on about you didn't even maybe notice, or you would sort of become unconscious to the amount of like judgment going around.
Right.
That's actually a great one.
Yeah.
That's why kind of when we started again, I was like, I need to settle. Let me just name in this moment what I'm feeling and kind of bring yourself.
Yeah, the awareness of all that was bubbling up or whatever, right? Like just see all of that. And
there's opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, truly.
I'm not
as long as we're human.
Yeah, I mean, driving, just being around people in the moment. Is it dialectic that's called, basically, where you do that with someone or you name in the moment, like, okay, I'm sensing that I'm feeling this in the moment, and the other person's like, okay. It's like a way to be basically kind of peel back a lot of onion layers. I don't remember what that was called. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't, but I mean, it makes sense in terms of if you're in a practice with another individual and you're both just attempting to notice, acknowledge, right? Like just doing that in real time with another person.
Yeah, and awaken to your projections is a lot of it too. So you need to be doing it with someone who has a grounding in their ability to be the observer, so that you can really filter.
That's right.
Yeah, and then I guess one of the things you're saying is, I like the word titration. Like you don't have to dive into the deep end. You can start with the guy who cut you off.
100%.
And say your parental issues for later.
Yeah, like or never, because again, the beauty of the onion analogy is that it's all the same material.
It's on repeat.
It's all the same material. So like you can be working on that material, that deep whatever scar, by noticing your relationship to what is here at the grocery store, what occurs, right? Like all of that's what I love about this work is it's like not disconnected.
Yeah.
And I often say you're just like chipping away at it. You're just chipping away.
Yeah.
And every time you're aware, you've already chipped away a little aspect of that. Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah. And you didn't even have to do anything.
And I think what you're pointing to, I like to differentiate, and I'll check the difference between mindfulness and meditation. We'll probably have to wrap up around that.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I want to interject that people think it's like, oh, I sit on my cushion and I meditate and then I go through my life unconscious.
Right. Yeah.
And so, those are two sides of different coins, and it's not something you do in isolation and then run unconscious the rest of your life. So yeah.
So I have never like taken a mindfulness based course, right? I've studied meditation with my teacher. I've studied lots of different types of meditation prior to meeting my teacher about 14 years ago and studying that with her. But I will say that there can be, when I have let me back up. When I have students come in, whether they're just learning like an intro to meditation series, or they're doing what I teach now, are these meditation as a living practice series and groups. There is this aspect that I feel like comes from and it could be a misunderstanding around mindfulness practices, but that it sort of distances ourselves from ourselves. Like it kind of goes like, oh, that's just a thought. I'm just going to label a thought. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But when I work with a meditation practice, so I teach meditation in a particular way, it is aimed at what am I learning and understanding through this time on the cushion that then I'm literally taking into my life and continuing practice.
Yeah.
It's not, I used to say this with yoga too. It's like, there are many, we like to talk about the benefits of yoga when we're encouraging people to do it. We're like, increases flexibility, reduces stress. Like we have all of these wonderful things, but that's not what yoga is meant for. Yoga is meant to deconstruct the ego and to prepare the body to sit in meditation.
Yeah.
Right. So like in meditation, it's like we could say there's all these benefits, like it helps to reduce stress. It helps you to become more less reactive. Like we can point to those benefits, which there are benefits. But to me, the benefit of sitting and practicing is so I can sit and notice all of my human material. I'm going to notice that I'm thinking. I'm going to notice what it is I'm thinking. I'm going to notice where my mind is going. I'm going to notice how that affects my body. I'm going to notice my physiology when I'm sitting. I'm going to actually learn to witness all of it, because that's where I'm learning about my patterning. That's where I'm learning about my conditioning. Because then, when we make the choice to sit down in a quiet room for this amount of time, it's like we're choosing it. Then we go into life and we're not choosing any of it, right? Like this is happening and this is happening. This person said this and now right. It's like, so now I have that experience to go, what can I remember about that?
Yeah.
What can I notice is arising in me in this moment? We forgot to hit record, right? Like what happened?
Like that all of a sudden.
Yeah, it just boom. But then just noticing, it's because you had a physiological response to that.
Yeah.
You had a couple thoughts related to it, made you feel a certain way, an emotion arose, right? All of that's occurring. And that could create reactivity, or it's like, okay, and now we're doing this.
Yeah.
And now we're in the next moment. So it is to me, it's all about the integration.
Yeah.
It's 100% about the integration.
Yeah. And from a neuroscience perspective, when you're sitting on the cushion or whatever other mindfulness or meditation practice you're doing, it's the same as doing a push-up. You're strengthening certain neural pathways that are getting embedded. So now through the rest of your day or other times in your life,
yes,
you strengthen the neural pathway that is the witness, that
right.
is the pause before reacting. So
that's right.
Yeah.
You're undoing certain neural pathways, which I say are like deep ruts in the brain.
Yeah.
And those ruts can't be, to me, they cannot be exited without awareness. And we can try to will our way out of those ruts, but anyone who's ever been in a super deep rut, you're just going to break the axle to your car.
Yeah.
Like it is like you're locked in and we try to will ourselves out of it. But awareness, I say it's like we lift up out of that rut for a moment and then we can be like, oh, I could actually turn here. Or a lot of times the practice is I notice and then I'm right back in it.
Yeah, that's the thing is we like to think that because we're practicing mindfulness and meditation, we're like, okay, I'm done with that pain.
Yeah, that rut's gone.
I'm done with that reactivity.
No.
But no, you're in it for a while. And part of meditation and mindfulness is developing that space within yourself and that compassion to be in the response, the ruts.
100%. And then as you come up and out of the rut and you take a new path, that's the new neural pathway.
Yeah.
Right. And so then that becomes, and we develop those new ways of being and operating.
Yeah. Well, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I know we can talk for hours.
I know.
Yeah. So I really appreciate us reiterating some of these points that people can begin to maybe notice their thoughts and have an entree to this practice. And if people are looking for a mindfulness teacher or life coach, ellieburke.life.
Yes, that's my website.
Yeah. So I know I have benefited tremendously through tons of external meditation and mindfulness practices and teachers. I don't think I could do my job without it.
Yeah.
So I think everyone should be doing this in some form and whatever that might mean for you. So yeah, whether you seek Ellie out or someone else, I'm very grateful for you sharing this knowledge with us today.
Thanks for letting me have the space.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You will. You too.